Okay, so moving on from the side rockets, we're going to go into the side swing. So you've done this exercise before. In level 1, we did the sagittal plane normal swing. So it's going from front to back. So your normal sagittal plane swing goes from front to back. With the side swing, we're going to go across the front of the body. So anything with a side in the name means we're going the frontal plane. And that's one of the things I love about club bell training is the elongated weight. Makes it a lot easier to move the club across the front of the body, going from side to side. And you can do these exercises with a kettlebell, but it just doesn't feel the same. You've also got the chance of cracking your knee as you're passing across the front of the centre line, which isn't going to be good. You know, the shape of the club lends itself perfectly to moving that club bell around across the front of the body in different movement planes without hitting yourself. And really, the side swing is exactly the same as the sagittal swing. The only difference is we're going in a different plane of motion. Okay, so with this exercise, we're going to set up with our feet shoulder width apart. Forces generated like a traditional swing, forces generated from the posterior chain, from the glutes, from that hip drive. Exactly the same with a side swing. The only difference is we've got a 45-degree hip hinge. So instead of going just backwards, we're going 45-degree backwards, okay? And there's very few exercises you can train this movement pattern. So usually if you're doing a hip hinge with a traditional strength training exercise like a deadlift with a barbell, it's just sagittal plane, front and back, kettlebell swing, sagittal plane, front and back. Great thing about clubs is we can move hip hinge in different angles. Okay, so just remember with the side swing, the force is generated from that hip hinge movement, not from the arms. Your arms are just connected to the club. Okay, they're just an extension of the club. They're not actually moving the club. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the club, full arm lock. Okay, if I'm going to have my left hand married to the pommel and my right hand over the top on my first set, on the second set, just make sure you change grips. So you're changing grips and just going to keep it even, so you're doing both sides. So if I'm going to swing the club bell to my right, I'm going to have my right arm as the long arm. So my left hand is married to the pommel, right hand over the top, full elbow lock, shoulders are down and packed down. I'm just going to cast that club to my left at 45 degrees. I've shifted my weight onto my right. As the club moves across the front of the body, I drive the hips forward, come up to shoulder height. My midline stays facing the club. My eyes look at the club as well. Okay, and then from there, just making sure I've got full elbow lock, shoulders down and packed down. I come back the way I came, and then I shift the weight onto that opposite foot again, okay? So drive the hips forward, come up, shoulder height, and then back down. Just with this one, just make sure that you don't hip hinge or you don't drop your knees forward as the club's passing across the front of the body. Otherwise you're going to crack yourself in the side of the knees, okay? So just do a few reps to show you what that looks like. So left hand against the pommel, right hand over top, shoulders down and packed down, elbows locked out. Can feel the stretch in my hammies, load up that posterior chain, going to cast the weight to the left and drive. Okay, so as you can see, all that force is generated from that hip drive on the way through, and just stay looking at the club bell all the way through the movement pattern. Okay, so once we've done the two-handed side swing, now we can do the single side swing. So exactly the same movement. Again, just remembering we're not moving from the arm. Your arm's just connected to the club. All the power is coming from the hips. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cast that club out. As I cast it to my left, I'm going to shift the weight to the right. As it's past the centre line, I'm going to drive those hips forward. Okay, so I'm not extending through the hips until my arms has passed my body. I don't want to be driving forward too soon. I don't want to catch my knees on the way through. So as I come through, I extend those hips. Arm comes up around about shoulder height. Okay, and then from here, I just follow that same path down to the side. As I'm passing across the front of the body, then I'll hinge at 45 degrees again, okay? So just going to do a few reps real quick. Feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing forward. Going to point that club bell down and extend. Big snap on the hips to drive that club bell up towards shoulder height. Okay, and that's your single side swing.